What is up, y'all? If you don't understand white supremacy, world domination, nothing in front of you will ever make sense. What's poppin'? This is the N-Word Podcast, episode 7. My name is Kevin. This is the fabulous, wonderful, beautiful, highly intelligent Angela Peoples.
Hey, y'all. That quote is so appropriate for right now. I mean, always, but especially in this electoral environment, peak electoral environment. Get it together, Free.
She's all walking around the set. Yes, peak electoral environment typically means peak levels of white supremacy showing its ass. How would you say that? How have folks been showing their ass? How has white supremacy been showing its ass, given this election cycle that we're experiencing?
So many ways. I mean, we have to start at the top with the fact that, like, one of the main candidates is basically running on white dominance. He's like, my thing is, I'm going to take the coloreds, get them out of here for you to restore your power. Like, that's literally what he's saying. And, like, he's not saying white people is power, but he's saying your power, the white dominant class, right? Like, it's a plain as day.
I just want to say, you know that there's like a famous image and moment in basketball history where LeBron James and D Wade are on a fast break, and D Wade throws it up, and he's kind of just like, and LeBron's in the background like just slam dunking it. Yeah. I just want to say that the way I fell into that question,
a beautiful alley-oop,
and the way you answered it. That's what comes to mind. Like, I literally, I was like, wow, like, this is a great, like, one thing I will always appreciate is a great question and a great answer.
Yeah.
And I just had to stop because I'm just like,
we killed that shit.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. It was very.
I appreciate that.
You were just in the background, like, and that was great. That was great. That is, in fact, how white supremacy is showing its ass. There is a whole out and very, like,
it's a whole movement.
It's a whole, like, there's a very out and proud white supremacist running for president. It's a whole movement. Tiki torches, you know, low key. Travis Kelce went from the Negro fade to the Tiki torch cut. It was a crazy transition. But when I said, you know, when I was going through the Tiki torches and, you know, going through
his haircut came to
the
mind.
white supremacist movement, I'm like, oh shit, this nigga Travis Kelce went from.
Not saying Travis is a part of the movement necessarily. We're not aware of such affiliations at all.
At all. I have no clue.
No clue on that.
But who knows?
I also think, like, even like, regardless of who wins, you know, and we'll talk a little bit about, like, how we're voting in a little bit, but regardless of who wins, I just think that we really need to take stock in the fact that, like, according to the polls, about close to 40%, in the mid 40s at sometimes, percent of this country are like, sign me up for the white supremacist movement. Like, the movement that says, get the colors out of here by any means necessary, control the women and the people with uteruses bodies,
right?
Define gender and sexual expression in these very specific ways, right? Because those are all tenets of white supremacy.
Right.
That move, like 40% of the country is like, yes, please. Like we have some serious work to do.
Serious fucking work. I'm trying to look up how much this fool spent.
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
He spent like 125 mil?
17 mil.
Oh,
Republicans have spent 17 million on political ads specifically targeting trans folks. Like,
wow.
White supremacy is literally that, being able to fund a targeted attack on a group of people, targeting and funding a attack on a group of people and labeling them the boogeyman, labeling them the villain.
The reason you don't have nothing.
Literally backing your disinformation campaigns. Like there's this ad around there's this ad that I constantly keep seeing, and actually like I usually see it whenever like I'm like watching football or something. And
target audience.
It's like literally, right? And it's literally an ad that's talking about how like Kamala wants to fund they, them, and like not you or some shit. And it's basically like saying how it's basically connecting this idea that tax dollars are going to fund operations for trans folks, when the reality, the fact of the matter is that those operations extend to all inmates, folks in prison, because it was a specific, I think it's like a specific bill.
Yeah, it's like a policy that she fought for to expand access to health care for people in prisons, including trans people who are in prison, making sure that whatever prison they're in, that they can have access to the care that they need. Is what I've understood. Expanding access to healthcare is basically
literally
what happened.
Expanding access to healthcare, but they take that idea, concept, moment, and flip it into disinformation and make it seem as if like, oh, Kamala is specifically trying to look out for these people and not look out for everybody else, when the literal like the bill is literally an expansion of
for everybody. Well, but also like. And not only is it misinformation because it's saying like it's saying that it's a one thing when it's actually the complete opposite thing, but it also is like a usage of white supremacy in that it assumes that we should not see these people as human,
right?
Like, and in fact, in order for you to get what you need, you have to dehumanize these trans people,
right?
Which is like textbook. They've been doing that shit since slavery and even before. Like, don't let the reason that you might have that you might not have is because these people have it and they don't deserve it. Which is just like,
when in reality there's enough
100%
there's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
On the most simple way to think about this. And I think another way to think about this is that all this really is taking time to consider folks, to learn about folks' experiences, and designing policy, programs, government agencies that are able to solve these problems. But instead, it's a fucking shit show. It's a shit show, and then it's kind of made to seem like, oh, well, if we focus our attention on the border, what's going to happen to the economy and all these folks who need money and the working class and da-da-da-da-da, when it's like, well, when you have to clean up a house, you're not like well, shit, I have to clean up the bedrooms and the bathrooms, so I can't clean.
Can't touch the kitchen.
I can't touch the kitchen.
Can't touch the
living
kitchen.
room. Like,
The
nah,
kitchen's just
nigga.
gonna have to stay dirty. Like,
I'm
no,
sorry,
you
the kitchen is just gonna have to stay.
figure
dirty.
out how to get it clean.
No, you figure out how the fuck to clean the whole house and get the whole house looking good. And I feel like that is a good way to summarize white supremacy showing its ass constantly, honestly, but especially in this current election cycle.
I think also another way that is really pissing me off that white supremacy is showing its ass is the way that black people are being used as tools. Some black people are being used as tools to like separate and divide us and ostracize or outside, both movements, information, misinformation, and also like to pit us against these other communities that like we have so much solidarity, support, and like alignment with, like how black men are being used as a foil to say like, don't vote for this black woman.
Yeah.
Or how black people are as like in our deep desire to have a black woman as president. I'm saying that with a lot of eye rolls and sarcasm in my tone, but like our black people's deep desire to have some black woman president as a wedge to say, push us against Palestinian people who are like demanding an arms embargo and an end to this war. And they're trying to like speak for their people's lives and our role in the genocide. And it's just, or even like black people being told that our jobs are being taken away by these immigrants, which is just like, it's all so much a playbook that we've all seen that white supremacy does. But I think right now, especially because there's so much that is, one, because like, you know, the algorithm turns everything up in a way that's like very, very unhelpful. But also because there's so much like hurt and fear and like people really can feel the threat on like many levels.
Because it's right there.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you know, you could pick up a phone and get access to a literal genocide that's happening like on the same planet that we're currently existing on and filming a podcast on. Like it's a mind fuck, and it is wild how they use these things to separate us, cause conflict between us and between party lines, as they say. I think the other thing that pisses me off is also the like judgment that's placed on folks who have solid and legitimate reasons to not play in this game of elections this year. It's weird because it's almost like people don't even acknowledge or see how much they're interfering with this, like the simplicity of consent.
Yeah, fair. 100%. That's like a baseline. That's so real.
At the most simple level, I do not consent to do XYZ. So like, leave me alone. It shouldn't be like an attack that's now like, well, my grandfather fought for da-da-da-da-da-da, and like, you got a tattoo of Malcolm X, and how could you da-da-da-da-da-da, or like, it's just like, it's wild because at the end of the day, you know, there are, again, people with solid reasons as to why they're like, I'm not fucking with this. I've even had my mom, you know, a Haitian woman born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, even tell me that, like, I forget what election it was, but it was maybe like 1 or 2 elections ago that she was like, she went from like being a Democratic like volunteer and like helping them out, doing like phone banking and shit like that, to literally being like, nah, fuck them. These people, I want to say it might have happened after the former president of Haiti got killed or assassinated. It was either
That was like last year or a year ago.
no, it definitely wasn't last year.
Oh.
It was like I think a while ago.
Okay.
I don't know, but point is, there are people with solid reasons as to why they do not want to vote in this election, and that shit should be okay. It should be cool and should be fair, because the name of the game is to collect votes, not shame motherfuckers who don't want to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, be better at collecting votes, my nigga. Like, leave these people alone. Like, what the fuck? And since we're on the record and talking about, you know, voting choices and you know, not shaming people for their choices, interested in, you know, how you're sharing your strategy for voting this election. And I will say for myself, I've definitely gone back and forth on like, well, I'll actually put it like this. When Joe Biden was elected, or when it was clear that Joe Biden was running for president, again, it was like, nah, bro. Like, y'all got it. I'm gonna sit this one out. I'll be over here doing some, like, you know, activist, fuck the police shit. And y'all got it. Handle that. And then Kamala came through, and I was still kind of like, you know, shout out to a black woman stepping up to the plate. Not necessarily stepping up at the plate, because black women constantly...
Being at the plate, yeah.
Black women are constantly stepping up at the plate, but like, shout out to this black woman for like being at the plate and you know, getting as far as she has, with the potential of being president, and the first woman president being a black woman. That's lit. Does that solve problems? No, not necessarily. Does that inspire generations of black girls and women to, you know, run for president, run for office, do lit things in their community? Absolutely, that's dope. But it doesn't solve anything, you know, for racism, for misogynoir. You know, it doesn't do anything with the genocide that's happening in Palestine. So again, it was like a shrug. Okay, cool. Kamala Harris, whatever. I'm still probably going to sit this one out. And I think what hit me, which, you know, tends to hit me a lot when it comes to making a decision on voting, which is that, like, I am nuanced enough. I am able to hold many truths. Mm-hmm. I'm able to hold multiple truths, and I could psychologically sit this out while also taking action in solidarity with, you know, folks who will highly benefit from Kamala Harris being president versus Donald Trump being president.
That's real.
You know, there are homies, loved ones, people I fuck with that, like, if Trump becomes president, like, they're counting their days. They don't know what the fuck is about to happen next in their lives.
Literally.
Like, literally. Whereas, you know, if Kamala is president, there's a level of like, okay, I can breathe a little bit easier. And as I breathe a little bit easier, it's giving me an opportunity to strategize. And I'll end with strategizing. I can appreciate a perspective around voting that's like, this is more about strategy than picking, you know, Kamala Harris or Trump.
And also doing what feels good. Like, I feel like people are like I can just say for myself, it does not feel good to vote. I am planning to vote. This does not feel like a good vote to cast. It feels like a very hard vote to cast. And I don't think that, I think that if voting does feel good to you, that's great. that is one reason to vote. But I think it's also okay to name that this doesn't feel good, but I'm still going to do it. I got to do a lot of shit because of white supremacy that does not feel good to me.
Facts.
And yet and still I'm trying to like thrive and live in whatever ways, free and liberated in whatever ways I can. This vote that I'm about to cast is not one of those ways. I get that. Mm-hmm. Not living my liberatory life through this vote. I will say to the point that you started to make around this idea of consent and like people not voting, I really appreciate the like just the simplicity of like do not consent. If someone doesn't consent, it doesn't actually it's not cool to be like, why don't you consent? You're not you not consenting is bad for me. It's like, how are you you're harming me in all these ways? Like, bro,
that's a white supremacist ass response.
Yeah, like they legit said they don't consent.
Period.
Go find the people that do. And I think that that's just a real like baseline way to play. And I also, shout out to all of our listeners, friends, family that are working on the election right now.
That part.
Like,
yeah, we
love you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please take care of yourself. Folks, because all of these issues, we feel it. You know what I mean? Like I saw an abortion commercial that was like talking about, or a commercial talking about how Trump is the extreme nature of Trump and wanting to ban abortion. And this it was just it was an ad about a mother who wanted to get pregnant and like a black family that was so excited, and then they lost the baby at 16 weeks. And it's just like so traumatic. Like we're having to like tell these so traumatic stories about all of the things that are at risk for us, for trans folks, for immigrant folks, for undocumented folks, for the Palestinian folks. Like we're literally having to express our trauma and our pain as we're pushing through this election cycle. So I just want to say, like, deep breath, everyone. Like, love you all. Thank you. We're going to get to the other side of this. And like, that's also why we have to be very intentional about like, it's one thing to be persuading voters, people who are going to vote one way or the other. It's another thing to like be harassing someone or trying to convince them for their decision to vote or not to vote.
Yeah.
Like,
or just being petty. Like,
we're all doing a little bit of different math here, right? And like, that's okay. But we are going to get to November 6th, November 7th, whatever after Inauguration Day, because who knows when the election results will actually be in. But like, there's going to be a moment where those of us that know that white supremacy is trying to kill us and we need to like fight back and disrupt it in all the ways we can, that we got to be able to like bang with each other on the other side of this. Mm-hmm. And so like, I've been talking to some homies who did a lot of organizing around the 2020 presidential primary. And I think I might have mentioned this before, but just this idea that like, there was a lot of hurt, quote unquote, beef discourse online throughout the process of like, whether you're for Bernie or Elizabeth Warren or somebody else, like there was so much of that. And like, talking to like my homie Charlene Carruthers, talking to Phil Agnew, talking to Patrice Cullors, like many, just this idea of like, we really created a lot of like tension and angst between us.
When there didn't need to be.
It didn't need to be. And these people aren't even for us. Like,
no.
Shout out Elizabeth Warren or whatever, but like, she's not the one that's going to like help me disrupt white supremacy. She's a tool. She's like, or her candidacy and her platform and her role is a tool. And so like, I think that I really want folks, as we're like, getting to the other, end of days, one, take care of yourself. And like, two, like, just remember, dial up the empathy as much as you can. 'Cause like, people who are choosing not to vote or choosing to vote, particularly at this top of the ticket issue, when the genocide of Palestine is top of mind, when the rights of trans people are top of mind, when abortion access is top of mind, when immigration and this threat of mass deportation is top of mind, like, just dial up the empathy, because we need each other on the other side. We need each other now. And, you know, these institutions are not, they're never for us. We got to be for us.
I'm really happy that you brought up the primaries. What year was that?
2020, 2019, 2020.
2019, 2020 primaries. Because I was definitely going to say that, like, yeah, that was a moment where white supremacy had us acting a fool. Had us acting a fool for their game. And, like, we're just in the stands in the audience, like some fucking, like, soccer fans just going crazy. And I will personally say I totally showed my ass. And, you know, that was whack. You know, I think it wasn't the degree of shaming that I see happening now, but it was a level of shaming that was like, you know, if you're familiar with the culture of shaming, you could look at my actions then and be like, this nigga out here shaming niggas. Right.
And also just like taking stuff very personally when actually, like, that's not what this was at all.
And I think that's, you know, on some campaigning, branding shit, shout out to the people that were able to brand the campaigns enough that
brought us in.
That brought us to a point where we all felt like we were wearing jerseys and that we had to fight the other teams. Like, again, on some strategy thing, like on a like strategy perspective, on like campaigning perspective, that's
well done.
Brilliant design. Brilliant design. But personally, totally showed my ass. Totally was just like, yo, in reflection nowadays, in retrospect, I'm like, damn, like,
didn't need to show up that. Didn't need to go that hard.
Didn't need to go out that hard. Totally needed to chill. However, I will say, and this is my second point that I wanted to bring up, which is that, like, voting for Elizabeth Warren felt good. Voting for Elizabeth Warren was like, nah, this white woman, at the very least,
she might get it.
Might get it, and has a plan that I can, like, it's tangible. I can experience it. I can see it. I can, you know, it felt like it made sense. It also felt like she was the teacher that you could hold accountable in school, where it's like you could be like
she might make you do something that you don't want to do, but she's gonna explain it to you, like make it make sense.
She's gonna explain it to you in ways where you're like, damn, why aren't other teachers like this? So, you know, voting for Elizabeth Warren felt good. And then, you know, the third thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned empathy. And it's wild because I feel, you know, if I had a white supremacy hot take to offer and to share right now, I would say that white supremacy strips us away from our empathy.
100%.
White supremacy takes away our ability to look at somebody and humanize them and be able to feel for them. I think whatever it is about my experience in life, I feel for niggas who are not myself. I feel for other people. When I hear stories, when I process the math on other people's experiences, I can sometimes have a genuine feeling and reaction to it where I almost feel like it's happening to me, or like I will react like, oh shit. Like sometimes in our day-to-day, I have these like, not outbursts, but like I'll say something out loud and it's actually me processing
Other people, yeah.
like it's me processing like another part of my day, or like something I heard somebody say, or it's like somebody's shit, and then like me feeling like, "Ooh, shit, god damn, that sucks, that's terrible." So yeah, what you just said had made me think about that, but I don't believe you actually
How I'm voting.
shared how you're voting. Please don't take this as an opportunity for me to shame you.
No.
If you don't want to share who you're voting for, I don't want you to feel like you have to walk the plank, because I feel like that's what American culture does with voting.
Oh,
it's
sure.
like this, like, shh, don't tell nobody.
Yeah. But I think that also goes back to like this whole like it's personal. Like it's not really that personal to me. Like I said, like I don't feel like in some ways maybe it is personal, because like you said, like it did feel good to vote for Elizabeth Warren. It doesn't. I am going to vote for Kamala Harris. It doesn't feel good to vote for Kamala Harris. It didn't feel good to vote for Joe Biden in 2020. I was like, what happened in 2016? Whoop, we'll move on from there.
Was it KKK or GOP?
Yeah, that was.
What is this?
It's a voter guide.
Oh. I was like, girl, put the pizza menu down. We do not need to be broadcasting.
It's a voter guide.
Marbo's Pizza. I'm sorry.
Leave me alone. No.
KKK or GOP was 2016.
That was 2015 because what's his name?
Republicans.
Donald Trump won the nomination.
It was before he won the nomination too.
Yes, we did KKK or GOP.
And awesome.
Truth tellers, future seers.
Yo, look up the hashtag KKK or GOP.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Holla at us.
What was I gonna say?
Voter guide.
Thank you. No. Before that, just that it didn't feel like when you're saying it felt good to vote for Elizabeth Warren. So like in some ways, maybe it is a personal thing, but I just think like I don't take it personal. It's like this is a part of who I am, is who I vote for. Yeah. Because. Anyways, I am, like I said, I'm gonna vote.
It's like getting a license.
Exactly.
It's like
going to the DMV. I
gotta drive.
And I think maybe that's a generational thing that's evolving, right? Because like more and more people are not identifying with one party or another. I know that my parents definitely were like Democrats, like that was their thing.
Tatted on my chest.
Tatted on my chest, wearing the jersey. But I just think like more and more, I personally am like, this is one, I have to pay my light bill. I have to like register my home in these ways, and I have to vote.
It's a thing,
to like set up whatever the circumstances are. Don't love it, still gonna do it. Anyways, I brought out the voter guide. Not pizza menu, just because I wanted to take a second to like help people land in the fact that like there's more on the ballot than just president and vice president. B, it's okay. Like I have walked into the voting booth many times in all of the places that I lived and been like, who are these people?
I've literally
I don't know nothing about nothing on this thing.
It dead ass me always reminds me of like walking into class and your teacher's just like pop quiz niggas. Get your pencils out. You're like, oh shit.
It doesn't have to be a pop quiz necessarily, because you should get a voter guide. We live in Broward County. This is the Broward County voter guide. And it doesn't tell you who to vote for, but it does tell you what races are on the ballot, and like who's running for it.
Nice.
And then it also tells you about the ballot initiatives that are up for, or the amendments, whatever, that are up on your in your ballot. So, for example, at Broward County, we have like constitutional amendments for the state of Florida to vote on, and then we have Broward County referendums specific to our county to vote on. So anyways, you can read all of those things. People still send stuff in the mail. Also, the cool thing about like community organizations, like shout out to Florida Rising, I just saw one that they did. They'll send out like recommendations, at least for like the amendments, and they'll send you voter guides that tell you, or they will do do voter guides that tell you where candidates stand on the issues that you might care about, like abortion, like childcare, paid leave, whatever.
Right.
So anyway, if you see your county guide and you're like, this doesn't tell me anything about anything, you can go to like a community organization, or even like the, if you trust the Democrats, you can go to the Democratic Party in your county and like, check out what they're saying about the different issues. But I just wanted to share a voter guide. Another thing to note that I wanted to lift up is like, in addition to, your House of Representative that's on the ballot, some people have their senator on the ballot like we do. We get to vote against Rick Scott, which is exciting.
Fuck Rick Scott.
That's really great. That's something I'm looking forward to, honestly, on election day.
Yeah, you should have never told me that shit. I'm about to vote right now.
You know what? I will say I'm not voting for Jared Moskowitz is our representative. At least maybe he's not where we moved now because we just moved. So I'll have to check on that. But if I did get a chance to vote, I would not vote for Jared Moskowitz. I don't like everything that he's saying about the way that he's talking about the Palestinian people. It's one thing to like vote however you vote, but the way that he's speaking about it is particularly gross to me.
Don't get me started.
Wouldn't vote for him. Have to check if he's our person still. I also just want to say there's 2 amendments, like the constitutional amendments, the ballot initiatives. No matter where you live, those are always good to check out. Those are fun, like usually fun. Like, for example, we get to vote to legalize marijuana out here in Florida, Amendment 3. And we also get to enshrine abortion rights into the state constitution, Amendment 4. Nice. So that's cool. We're going to vote. I'm going to vote yes on those things. But the ballot initiatives are good because they also have some bad stuff that you can stop from happening on there. So I would check those out. And then in Florida, there's 2 judges, Supreme Court justices that are up that, based on the voter guide that I've seen from some organizations, it's cool to vote no on them because the Supreme Court, the judges, they see like constitutional questions. So like they're the ones that could try to stop this abortion protection amendment from getting implemented or like anything like that. So I'm going to vote against those 2 judges.
So I appreciate that. I would also say that if you don't know what's on the ballot in your area, how I would go about finding those answers is I probably would start with a Google search. Sample ballot 2024.
That's a great start.
Name your county. I think that's one way that I would start to look for what's on the ballot in my area. Another way that I would do this is I feel like everybody has that one extra progressive ass friend, that one extra
I am your friend,
activist ass friend. Maybe reach out to them and be like, hey, tell me the answers here, like what's happening. There are more ways than one to find these answers. There are more ways to find these answers than to specifically align yourself with a particular party.
Totally.
I think a great point. That is one of the fucked up realities that white supremacy throws on us when it comes to election time, is that you actually have to pick a side, when in reality you could just pick issues. You could pick like certain fights and certain things that you want to actually engage in. Just because you're voting for a particular fight or a particular issue doesn't necessarily mean that, you are of one particular party. I would say that I feel like the DNC, I don't necessarily tell myself that I'm a member of the Democratic Party. However, the Democratic Party and I align with similar ideas and similar fights. I will also say that we align with similar fights, and I also have beef with them for various things that they do or do not say. You know, I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's like, I might not fuck with this person for real, but I'm down to go to their house party.
Okay.
I might be a liability
At the house party. Sure.
Because if this nigga
maybe
say
you'll take a
some
bottle or two from them. Leave with one.
If some shit.
I don't know. Yes.
I'm trying to think of like a
I
solid
hear what you're saying
analogy
though. Yeah.
where it's like, or you know, I think it's kind of like, damn, that was a bad analogy too.
The party one?
No. I was thinking of another.
I liked it, but I will say I didn't. I did just want to say like why I'm voting, even though it doesn't feel good, and even though I know it's like not a liberatory task. I think that, and I was thinking about this a lot last night. I'm not even going to say that out loud because I don't want to put that into the world. So just take that back in. But I will say that I was just thinking about it last night, and I don't love the like lesser of two evils cliche because like, yikes. I don't know. It just feels like not nuanced enough, or like almost like a cop-out kind of.
Yeah.
But I do think that like, I don't think that me voting for really anybody that's on the ticket, frankly, I don't think me voting for Kamala Harris or Debbie, last name I can't remember, who's the senator, candidate down here, or Tim Walz or whomever, I don't think that that's like going to stop the bad things that are happening that I want to stop from happening. I don't think that is going to stop anything bad. I do think that it can prevent the things that are worse from happening.
Yeah.
And that feels pretty important to me. I also remember what it felt like to wake up, to go to bed in 2016 and wake up in the next day in 2016 and Donald Trump be the president, or have won. I mean, it was really a like shocking, disassociating.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't think that he could win, but like sitting in that reality. And I think that is a feeling that like, you remember I was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I was in DC. You were in Florida at the time.
Miami, yeah.
I was like, I am leaving immediately. I'm getting on a plane. This is outrageous.
What a time.
What a time. But yeah, I think that that's a feeling that like, if I can avoid it, I'm going to do whatever I can to avoid it. At least the little bit that I can at all costs.
I hate that what you're articulating is making me think of, it's like, if I can root against Tom Brady and the Patriots
I will.
winning the Super Bowl, I might have to do it every time. Because I just can't wake up the next day.
This nigga won
and
again.
These motherfuckers won again.
Terrible.
Bro. It's just like, ugh, fuck.
Yeah.
I do appreciate what you said about the lesser of two evils being not nuanced enough to, you know, really articulate the vibes of what's in front of us. I feel like, you know, the lesser of two evils messaging often makes me think about like, okay, you're leaving a party, who do you want to drive you home? The nigga that's drunk as fuck, or the motherfucker that just popped a bean and is doing all types of things? It's like, well,
I'll just walk.
Just walk or take an Uber, bro. Yeah. I don't want to play this game.
I don't want to play this game.
I don't want to play this game. But when you break it down and you know, go beyond the just vote narrative, there are different reasons why you can strategize and play a game that you actually don't actually want to play. And, you know, shout out to the people who are deciding not to play for their specific reasons that are very clear and very, personal or not personal. But, I appreciate someone's clarity, someone's consent, and someone's clear decision as to why they're doing something. More than I can appreciate somebody who's doing something and they like have no actual articulation or like legitimate connection as to why they're doing this going in the particular route that they're going in.
Yeah, I don't love the like, I didn't vote because I didn't know it was happening, or I didn't vote because
fuck this.
Yeah, like, ooh, I need you to like think a little bit more about yourself, and you're like have a little bit more like love and pride for what's in front of us. That's like saying like I didn't, you could totally choose to not pay your electric bill. You could totally do that, and like there will definitely be consequences to that happening.
Totally.
But if you're like, I'm doing the math, right? Like there is a reason why I'm not going to pay this bill, and I will accept those consequences. Like, cool.
Bet.
Like, that's what can we do? And I just keep going back to like, we just need not make this a thing that we fight about.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to beef about this. It doesn't have to be like like people can make their choices and we can come on the other side of it. Like, I think that, and it's not the same as like, I'm voting for the fascists and you're voting for the like not fascist candidate. So like, but we can still be friends. Those are not the same. I don't think that that's the same thing as saying, because like, I do think there's some validity to being like, if you hold these ideas that are like anti me and my people, trying to like take away my rights, then like we actually can't be breaking bread. That is one thing. It's another thing to say like, you got to make your choice. I'm making this choice for like my people's safety, my values, my identity. Like, I think it's not a anti them. It's like we are all making different choices, you know? And like, if my choice isn't because I'm trying to oppress you, like, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris because I want the genocide to continue. I deeply do not. But I am voting for Kamala Harris because I don't want to put my trans siblings in further harm's way.
Facts.
And like, that is a fucked up choice to have to make. And it is the choice that that I feel like I'm faced with.
Yeah, it's definitely doesn't feel good.
Did you say who you're voting? If you're voting, who you're voting for?
I'm not voting for shit.
Okay. Also, the same offering that you gave me, no pressure.
I'm walking the plank, niggas. Might just dive in this bitch. I am voting for Kamala Harris. Doesn't feel good. But as my mom tends to say, that's life. And sometimes you have to summarize adulting with that reality. It sucks. It doesn't feel good. But as I said earlier, I could take a step back on my personal needs and take a step forward on the needs of my comrades and cast a vote on their behalf, even though I also have some comrades who are like, fuck that.
Sorry.
It's a level of multiple truth that I'm, able to sit with. And there's no shame in this game. People might try to do that shit, but I am well equipped with my armed force. that can prevent that type of shame from fucking with me.
And we get to continue to fight against white supremacy in all the ways that it shows up in our voting, in our institutions of power, in our schools, in our interpersonal relationships. This is one step that gets lots of attention and lots of resources. This is one point, and down and grateful to continue to be in that fight with you and all of you that are listening, that are watching. And lots of love and gratitude and grace and care and tenderness and just rest to all of you. We got us. We will get to the other side of this.
We will totally get to the other side of this. Shout out the good people who are watching this podcast, who have watched other episodes of this podcast. Really appreciate how y'all are showing us love, supporting us. Continue the support. It really helps us show up and cook this up in a really dope, authentic, and genuine way. And last thing I'll say is, if you ever really want to know how someone feels, just ask them.
And I will leave you with stream Glorilla's album. It's fantastic.